Hey, how you doing?
How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, sorry, I was in Brooklyn and I kind of lost track of time. Like as I was sort of messaging you, I was just like, oh my gosh, crap! I got to get the tube and then the train and then all that over to get back home. So, but I'm here. So,
All good. It's all good. If that's anything like London, and I'm sure you know, I totally get it. Transport's not the one, so I knew
oh
things.
man,
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
yeah,
Really excited to talk to you. We have a lot to talk about.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask you actually to kick it off, introduce yourself, who you are, how long you've been doing music, and then we can dive into some questions.
All right, cool. Yeah, sounds good. So, yeah, I'm Oli Morris. Originally from California. I grew up there and lived there for about sort of 9, 10 years. Well, 7 years in California, 3 years in Connecticut. So a bit of a 10-year American upbringing. And then I moved to the UK when I was 11. I started music, I studied music when I was 19. So that was, sort of 9 years ago. I guess you could say that's kind of when I sort of started sort of performing and collaborating with other people and working with other people. So, and then I joined my first band when I was 21. So that was like a reggae sort of like a piece on the Isle of Wight. That was really, really fun. Playing a lot of festivals, like going around the UK. Some really, really great summers there. Really, really great summers. And I'm based in Bristol now. I'm obviously, as you know, I'm visiting my aunt and uncle's place here in Brooklyn. Excuse me, in New York. So uh, yeah, I've got 10 days to sort of like take it easy, and then I'm back to Bristol with some sort of like new exciting projects. So yeah, look forward to it.
I was reading up on your kind of travels, like your childhood in like California, Connecticut, and then also in Bristol. Did you ever notice any difference between the two places in the music style and how people? I mean, obviously you gigged as well, so you kind of know
Yeah.
how crowd reactions are sometimes quite different. Did you ever experience that yourself? And what was it? What was the differences?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So like when I sort of started on the Isle of Wight, it was much more of a smaller pocket. It was much more of like a local scene sort of business. It was a very good music scene on the Isle of Wight, and there's a lot of really good musicians on the Isle of Wight, but it's very much kind of in its own sort of zone. It's sort of like in its own sort of scene. It's very sort of like inclusive in that sort of sense. So when I moved to Bristol, like it was just really exciting because all of a sudden there's been from like I play like 2 or 3 venues quite regularly on the Isle of Wight, and then moving to Bristol, there's just literally dozens of different places you can play, and then connections to like a bunch of different cities as well. Like there's really good connections to London,
Right.
so getting to London was way easier because you didn't have to worry about getting on a ferry, and the ferries didn't like cost like an extortionate amount of money. So, so like from paying what could be £50 for a ferry to paying like £5 for a coach up to London was
Yeah.
quite mind blowing to me. Like that sort of shift in like opportunities available to be able to play to other people and to be able to make connections with other people was really really exciting. Um, uh, yeah, I think like sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that's really interesting because Isle of Wight, like you have the Isle of Wight festival. It's very music
Yeah,
oriented, even though it's a small community. I think a lot of music happens there. But like you said, like because Bristol obviously is a lot bigger, it's a bigger place. It's closer to London. Definitely, I could see there being a lot more, potential, more work, more collaborations. A lot more
yeah,
diverse also in music. What I found really interesting is you studied commercial music.
yeah.
What is commercial music? For those who don't know, that's an interesting thing to study.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a really good question. Like it's and that's the thing about something like commercial music and what kind of drew me to study at that place. It was kind of similar to so they have universities. I don't know if they have it in London, but they have a place called BIN, which is like kind of a conservatory of just like people who want to be like musicians but don't really specialize in anything. So they go and they learn how to like be put into different bands. They learn about like recording. They learn about like some sides of the music business as well. And that was kind of similar akin to that course on the Isle of Wight. And that's kind of, I kind of wanted to explore everything. I didn't want to like make a jump and say like, I want to be a saxophonist just yet. That came actually much later. Like, I went to that university kind of in sort of aspiring to be kind of like a singer-songwriter, funnily enough, which now seems like ages ago. It seems like a lifetime ago, man. Like playing open mic nights and like writing cheesy songs when I was 14 to just now playing sax. But like, I was like, this might be what I want to do, but I'm going to go in with my saxophone, with my other instruments, with like, basically like they've given like everybody, they've given you the option to do 5 or 6 different like attributes to music. So it's like, well, let's just give this a shot and like kind of see maybe what's the best fit for me. And it really helped. I think it really did help.
What was the shift between being an, I mean, you're still an artist in your own right, but being a vocalist and to then turning to composing and like you said, you know, working on your saxophone, like what was that shift for you that made you feel like actually this is my lane and this is what I want to do?
Well, actually there's like quite a lot of similarities, and I still use a lot of like the songwriting techniques I used when I was like singing and writing guitar. I transferred a lot of that over. So it's not necessarily just like learning how to break down songs into like different sections, like different cadences of like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. It's like whenever I write songs for my own stuff now, like I always pick a concept, and I always try to have a concept in the back of my head of like what sort of feeling I want to portray, but also like what kind of subject matter I want to go through. So, so I guess Flyer, my last single, for example, was very much an exploration on my roots from growing up, because I quite understandably get questions about it a lot, and I knew I wanted to draw on some sort of nostalgic feeling. So like I've had like a sheet of paper with like a bunch of different like words just written down, just to like different ideas of what I play, and I'm just record like sax with like melodies and stuff. And I'm not necessarily playing the lyrics, but like I'm kind of playing to these concepts and these ideas. I think it makes it a bit more kind of like a thorough composition than if I'm just gonna play whatever. Really, it gives it more context. But so I say it's probably one of the similarities. I guess one of the differences is obviously like the way you use your voice is different from the way you like play the saxophone. So just like that shift is definitely like it took a bit of time just to be able to have that freedom just to play on keys. So
I was I think actually if anything the composing is a little bit more difficult when you don't have the lyrics, because you have to make people feel the way you feel, you know, feel writing composing the song. So if anything, I could see that songwriting element, and that's quite I would say with all your that you've released, you released a song called Bimal as well last year.
Last year,
which also has that kind of like, it's not just random instruments playing something beautiful. It feels like you're on and what was that song? And you also got featured on BBC. How was that experience for you?
It was amazing, man. Yeah, it was that was my first single, so that was the first single I've written out. It was terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. Just like releasing music is always terrifying. Like even releasing Flyer was just like, I knew kind of what to expect as I kind of let it out into the world, but it was still just like, holy crap, this is nerve-wracking as hell. But yeah, Bimal was like it's based on this like Nod yoga teacher I found when I was traveling around India, and I met up with my old sax teacher from the Isle of Wight. He goes to India every winter, so I wanted to kind of link up then and go meet him. And I didn't have my saxophone, unfortunately, but it was just more of like a chill out thing. Had a few beers and just like danced with a bunch of hippies and just chilled out. It was fun. It
I
was
was just
really fun.
that was time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It was a whale of a time, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. Bimal obviously kind of has a bit more of like a introspective sort of feeling to it. A lot of it is about that travel in India, and the sort of shift in narrative is like when I first arrived in India, and I hated it, and I was so terrified of just like being scammed all the time, being like not really knowing where to go, who to meet, like wanting to be spontaneous, but like that divide between wanting to be spontaneous but also just want to be safe at the same time. Um, it really frustrated me, and like really kind of like I really found it difficult with like my anxiety just to be able to navigate around there with my itinerary without really knowing what was going to go on. And then obviously the shift is towards the end when I sort of completed that trip around India and then became more and more comfortable as I just like exposed myself more out into like that sort of world. And doing that in Goa was actually a lot easier as well. They're a bit more chilled on tourists than they are in like the big touristy parts of North India. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think it's
so
interesting on that point. A lot of
yeah,
parts of the world aren't as diverse as we think, and sometimes it can be quite daunting exploring some of these places that don't are unfamiliar with you. You're unfamiliar with them. So
yeah,
good that you experienced then turned into something positive and produced something.
yeah.
So that's definitely positive. What made you release your first piece at that point in your career? Because you've obviously studied music for a long time. What was the reason you made the jump on that day on that song?
On that song, yeah. It's a good question. Like I knew like when sort of lockdown hit, um, I just had a lot of free time and I had a lot of time just to kind of reflect what I wanted to do. And I know I spent a lot of time just like doing session work for a lot of other bands and doing like wedding gigs and stuff like that. And I still do those things. I still enjoy those things, like definitely. But I was just like, I've enjoyed writing music, but I've been very private about it. I've been like sort of recording a lot of things and just kind of leaving them in a vault on my hard drive and not really doing anything with them. Um, and I knew I wanted it to be something. I knew I wanted to be something like kind of true to me and kind of nostalgic. I wanted it to be story driven. I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be like a jazz single, but I didn't want it to be like so. I wanted it to be accessible. I didn't want to be so like overdriven with just like um, a lot of like jazz licks and 251s and
Yeah.
all those things. Which I mean, there's definitely like a space for that in that song, definitely. But um, and I also knew like I wanted to collaborate with people that are, like the singer Chrissy is a very dear friend of mine and a fantastic, phenomenal singer as well.
Yeah.
So working with her has been like incredible. It's been a dream, really. And all the other musicians as well. It's got like Rory on keys and Andy, Eli, Sam. All those guys are people I've played with like for a long time. So to be able to write something and send it off, write a crappy
Yeah.
bass line and send it off and be like, got it, man. So that's been kind of like a nice sort of divide, I guess. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's really that sounds like an amazing start, and I think that the lockdown for a lot of people was triggering to go and explore something quite creative and really push themselves outside their comfort zone. And it's paid off. Like I said, you got your feature for BBC, which is an incredible achievement. You've made a couple of recent achievements as well, which I want to get into. But if we dive Flyer first, like you said, it kind of is a story in itself, and also the visuals for it as well that you've kind of posted on your socials, and
Yeah.
it's got that nostalgic feel. Where's that song like kind of based off of, and why did you use that almost diving into your memory for us? What was the
Yeah.
idea behind that?
Yeah, Flyer. I guess both singles I had have kind of been like a bit of a dive in the past. Like Bimal, like was just kind of a reflection that I could travel in 2020. That was a thing that happened. Like January 2020, I was able to go on a road, and then 2 months later, it was just like
Yeah.
happening. But Flyer, I think I kind of tried to draw those memories even further, like in the past, and really like try to look at like my roots and kind of where I've been. Like flying's always been like a big part of my life. Like I have British parents, I have British grandparents, and my aunt and uncle who live here are actually English as well. So I would fly back every summer when I lived in the States, and I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed like being on a plane. They used to have Super Mario on the planes as well. So like the
Oh,
old Super Mario games. Me and my brother used to just like play that on the planes, and then just like watch movies that were like a little bit like inappropriate for us as well. And then we've actually kind of enjoyed the food as well. I mean, like some very unpopular opinions about like plane flying, which it draws like deep to my heart and everything. So, and yeah, the visuals, like, yeah, I kind of drew those from my mom. She just kind of like had a bunch of like home recordings of us when we were kids, of just like playing with GI Joe action figures, and I used to do a lot of like taekwondo, so there's a lot of like tournaments we used to enter and stuff, and just kind of fun things, just kind of stuff of us like
I,
goofing around and all that. So, but that's the sort of thing. It's just sort of an homage that I've had that childhood, and that I was able to have that experience basically, and I guess like tying it into me going into New York was quite nice because it meant like after these 2.5 years of being COVID, we've been given the opportunity just to like go out and travel again. And I chose New York. I've never been to New York, so um,
yeah.
yeah, I can kind of picture it like just how people think LA is when they go to LA for the first time. Like that's how I've kind of like seen New York before. It's like the only like ways I've only been able to recognize New York is from the movies and from like TV shows and stuff. Like um,
Yeah.
and it's like LA, I never really thought of that because it was just like it just happened to be like on our doorstep really. So it's kind of a bit bizarre in that way, but
Yeah, no, I love the fact when people kind of give a bit of their, it's like a personal part of your life, right? And it's probably
yeah,
for you quite a nice look back on how much you've kind of grown and become the person you are today. So I think I love that element of nostalgia with the song, and that journey that it continues on, which matches the music, like you said, and behind it. So you're in New York. Are you working on
yeah.
music? And is that going to influence a change in sound? Is there going to be some New York elements in the next material you release, maybe?
Yeah, I haven't fully drafted anything. I've had a few ideas floating around, and I've written like a few ideas on my laptop and stuff. Like to be honest, like the last couple of days has just been like about hitting those tourist spots and just like really experiencing them. So like when I was able to finally get out of Times Square and go to Brooklyn, I've been wanting to go to Brooklyn for years and ages. So like seeing that was just like incredible. I'm just trying to soak in as much as I can, man. Really, like just trying to see as many sides as I possibly can, and use that to kind of maybe draw influence for like the next single or the next EP, whatever that might be.
I'm going to move on to some of your, you've had an amazing an achievement recently working with Emeli Sande and Track Summer.
Yeah, man.
I
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations. I think that's such an
Thank you.
amazing thing to work with, an incredible.
Thank you.
I think somebody who's so well renowned, and also just as a musician really cares about the music. So congratulations. But how was that experience?
Thank you.
How did it come?
Amazing, man. So I've never actually met Emily. I know the sound engineer for Emily Sande. There's a guy called Henry Davies. I went to university with him, and he hit me up one day, like just like during the second lockdown. It was about the same time I was recording the mall, actually, funnily enough. And he was like, "Hey, man, hope you're well. I'm just working on this new project at the moment. Like, would you be keen? He kept it very low ball. Like, I had no idea what he was going to ask me really. And like, I've worked with him in the past. Like, I've made music with him in the past. I've enjoyed that a lot. So, you know, as a friend, I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. Just like hit me up with whatever you have. And then he sends me like this demo track called ES Summer. And then he like, I like played the track a few times. And then it was like during that chorus hook where it's like, it's always some. I was like, wait a minute. And I like paused it and then I got back to like, because I saw something about maybe him working with Emeli Sande before, and I was just like, nah, can't be. It must be a completely different singer. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's Emeli Sanders or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's a completely different person. I didn't want to jump the boat. And then it turns out it was. So I was like, oh crap, okay, I've got to get my stuff together. And I recorded about 10 different ideas on there. It turned out being like 50 different tracks, different solo tracks and stuff.
Right.
Of just kind of different ideas, layering out as much as possible, trying to hear what the bass is doing, mimicking that, making everything into chords, stretching them out to make them kind of like feel. The track's supposed to feel like, I don't know if you listen much like Bon Iver before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of his later stuff, like his last few albums, that sort of more experimental side of it. I think that's kind of what they were aiming for with that track. So like I was going back to those albums, and then just listening back to them and hearing what Colin Sexton, the sax player from Bon Iver, was doing, seeing if I can kind of like match that feel. And then I sent it to him, and I was like, okay, these are the tracks they're recorded. This is okay. Like, does it sound okay? Do you want anything else? Please be honest. Let me know. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's all good. Maybe some harmonies. I was like, yeah, no, it's cool. And I harmonized every single one of those tracks. I kid you not, that file is about like 3-4 gigabytes large just of me playing. I've harmonized everything. It took me a good 5 hours to get all of that done.
I can imagine the pressure, like to when I kind of figured it out who it was. I mean, I know I would be like, oh my God, this has to be the best piece of work that I've ever done. This is such a, especially when you're working for other people, I think there's another level of pressure than comparing to your own music. Because I think when it's your own music, you feel what you feel and it's good to you.
Yeah.
But then there's lots of people involved, and yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Did you get sent instructions of like, you know, this is the kind of thing we want from you, or they gave you free reign to give you different styles and work with it like that?
I mean, it was quite free, to be honest. Like, I mean, yeah, Henry did send over like a little kind of brief of kind of like what he was kind of hoping the sound to be like on the sax, just like something Bon Iver, something very skittish.
Right.
So like kind of disjointed parts, like parts that are a little bit late, parts that are a little bit early. So if anything, it kind of gave me more freedom than restriction, which I quite enjoyed, to be honest. It was tricky, and it did involve like a lot of like overthinking about where I should play certain elements and stuff.
Right.
But like I kept them free and open, just so I know I trust Henry to take my parts and just do whatever the hell he wants to them, basically. Like make them a bit earlier, make them a bit later, which I think he did anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, just kind of like play around with that sort of stuff, and that was it, really.
Yeah. How was the moment when it came out? Like, how did that feel, like to have your name with you know, such an established artist amongst other, you know, musicians and composers that are incredible? How did that feel for you, and what was the first thing you did? Did you let your friends know? Was it Mark? Was it, you know, was it Henry? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Henry, mate. Yeah, appreciate it. Oh man, yeah, I remember that being a very good day. That was a very good day. It was. As soon as I sent the parts, I heard nothing for 6 months. So I just assumed that I just didn't get it. And I'm pretty sure actually this was like, I kid you not, 2 days before Christmas.
Oh.
This is 2 days before Christmas. That's what I tried to, and I remember like getting the message from Henry being like, you're on the album, you did it. Like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, holy crap. And I just ran over. I went to my mom's room. I think like she was like in her room and I was just knocking on her door. I was like, Mom. And she's like, what? I was like, guess what? She's like, what, is this good news? She's like, yeah, I'm on Emeli Sande's album. And then she just comes out, opens the door, and there's a big drop on her jaw, a big smile on her face, and we had like a big hug. So that's my strongest memory of that day.
This is going to be something that you.
Best stuff possibly could. Yeah, sorry, I think I might have cut you out like a bit earlier there, but.
No, sorry. You were saying you tried to keep it a secret and as best you could, but I'm sure once it was solidified that you're on the album, I'm sure you let everyone know, because I know I would. It's exciting because I feel like that's one of those points in your career that you're really going to remember. You know, I know bigger and better things coming your way. So I'm again, congratulations on that feature.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with Flyer now out, so if anyone is watching this on YouTube, please do go check out Oli Morris Flyer. I'm going to put all the links in the description. Also check out Summer by Emeli Sande, which Oli features in. What's next for you? What are the plans? Are we going to get more visuals? Are we going to get more an EP, an album? Have you thought that far ahead, or are you going with the flow?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm kind of going with the flow at the moment. I've still got a few exciting things coming up. So the animation video for Flyer, that's going to come out. We're Friday's there. That's going to come out next week, and that's done by this guy called Sam Listernoff, who's an amazing animation director in Bristol. He's done some videos for like Get the Blessing and Snazback and a lot of like local Bristol artists. He's great. He's so good. And a lot of like the trailers and stuff, the hand-drawn trailers, that was all him. So that's coming out next Friday. And then I've actually got a gig at the Gallimaufry on the 17th with my friend Chrissy, who's the singer on Bimal. So I'm going to be doing that gig with a few of the guys who are on that track as well. So I've got one friend coming up from London as well. So like I'm really excited for that. My friend Roy playing keys, so he's making a trip down for that. And then after that, I think, to be honest, man, I think I'm just gonna go with the flow and see sort of what happens. Like, I like to write an EP. I don't know if it's gonna include those two songs or not. I kind of like them being standalone, but I also kind of like the idea of pairing them together. So I need to give it a bit of thought. I've got like one song that I'm premiering on the 17th, a new song. So I'm quite happy and excited about that. That also doesn't have a name yet, so I can't tell too much about that yet. So ideally an EP coming up in a few months. But yeah, I'll see how it goes, really.
No, that sounds super exciting. And then you mentioned your gigs as well. How has that experience been? I know obviously lockdown has kind of thrown things out of whack a little bit, but people are now going more, and actually there's a bit more excitement, I think, about shows, which is great for musicians. How excited are you to get back to playing, or have you already started gigging or anything?
Yeah, I mean, summer, I think I've done about 30, 40 different shows. Oh, I think the last you back. Yeah,
Yep.
all good. So yeah, I've done about 30, 40 shows last year. So that was intense. It was great to be able to play to people again, but it was intense. So I'm going to slightly scale down from last year, I think. I was excited to go back into gigging, but like I think I kind of burnt the candle on both ends a little bit there. But with my own stuff, like, yeah, the gig on the 17th, I'm so excited for. Yeah, it's gonna be great, especially to play those songs with like the people that I've recorded. There was no like group recording or anything of these either, so it was just like I would kind of write these ideas at home on my laptop and then sort of send them out to people, and they would record it in their own time, like in the rooms,
Amazing.
and then send it back. So so to be able to play live with like a full bet with those guys again,
Yeah.
like I'm quite intrigued how that's gonna sound now, like 2 years after like us recording and playing on that song again. Like I think it's gonna be quite intriguing.
Yeah.
So,
That's super cool that you've kind of done it separately, and this will be the first time that actually kind of you're all there together playing some of the material, you know, some of the old material, but the new songs as well. Do you ever consider maybe even changing arrangements and stuff like that for like live gigs, or do you like to stick to the scripts a little bit?
yeah, I think it's always nice to kind of like a little bit of a difference to the songs like live. I think like you want to give fans that like other sort of like that flip of an experience almost in a way. Um, so yeah, I think there will be like a little bit different from the original tracks,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that would be kind of like a better way of doing it as well.
Yeah.
It's quite nice to fly it because sorry, I was just gonna say like it was quite nice to fly it because that was a track I've kind of drafted at a few gigs with a few other musicians before. It was good. Maybe put a post up about it, but like the recording for that live sounds so different to the recording like that's out now that came out last Friday.
Mm.
Like it's just the pacing of it is so much faster on the recorded track than it is on the like the live lounge version. It's a bit more of like a chilled out thing, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's
Um,
right. I think it will be really fun for people to come and see you and the crew live. And like you said, live experiences are, I find, always a lot different, no matter what kind of genre it is or style of music. I think it feels better when you hear it in the way I feel like music should be, like in person, live with other people that enjoy the music. So that's super exciting. Yeah, no, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this blog post. It's been really intriguing to kind of look at your background, what you've studied, and how your experience has been so far and so early on. I think very exciting potential that you have for what's going to happen in your future. So I think
yes.
it's amazing. It's amazing to look at. And again, congrats on the release of Flyer. If anyone is, please do go support independent artists. I think it's always so important that we support talent like Oli with his releases and his work. So I'll put all the links in the description. But Flyer is out now. Bimal can also stream. Doesn't matter if it's an old song, it's a tune. So do go check it out. And Summer, of course. Thank you, Oli, so much. And congrats again on the release. Lovely talking to you, and more things in the future. It had to be the last bit where
It had to be the last I was about to say my thanks. I was like, oh god, I can't be rude now. I can't just like leave the conversation and just be like, yeah, whatever, bye. Yeah, honestly, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, man. This has been really fun.
Yeah,
and really kind of nice to be able to explore stuff.
Please do let us know when you have more releases. I know there's the animation video to check out as well, so do share there on our blog as well. Thank you so much, Oli.
Absolute pleasure, man. I'll catch you soon. Take care.
Bye.